Folks. Welcome back to the Unqualified Film Bros podcast. Max is making his glorious return after a week off for law school tests. We wish him the best on his results when he gets them.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to our final review of 2024. We have had a crazy year. We are excited for our top fives episode next week, but we are going out with a bang with a movie that is sure to appear on Ben's top five. Kraven the
Yep.
Hunter, the final movie in Sony's Spider-Man universe. So, with further ado, what do you guys think?
You know, I know it's the last film, right? But it feels like a mercy killing. But also we did Venom the Last Dance, and that was, I don't know, I had way more fun with Venom the Last Dance than I did with Kraven the Hunter. I mean, Venom kind of knew what it was, at least to a certain extent. Like, it wasn't trying to do too much. It wasn't really trying to do anything, I guess. But Craven was all over the place, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Venom franchise is one of my least favorite because I love Venom as a character and I feel like I don't love him in that. Kraven I'm familiar with, but yeah, it doesn't make any sense to do a standalone film. His whole thing is the greatest hunter because he's hunting Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the greatest hunt. It's like um I somewhat had more enjoyment of this than like Madam Web and Morbius. I mean, it's a low bar, but like those ones, I was like dreading every moment. Craven, at least, some points was like, okay, that was kind of fun. But the action kind of really sucks. The CGI blood and things looks terrible, god awful. And I couldn't stop laughing every time Aaron Taylor Johnson starts going in like feral mode, running on all fours, like running into things, especially on that car chase. It's like, this is supposed to be cool, but instead I'm getting slapstick, you know? It's just like, what the hell is happening? But at the same time, I feel like that makes it a little bit more entertaining for me than like Madam Web and Morbius, which is just a train wreck throughout. This at least is like, it has some moments where it's so bad it's funny. And I really do feel terrible for Aaron Taylor Johnson because he's a better actor. I mean, you got Ariana DeBose in this. Like, you have actual actors in this, and it's just that's
You got
I
two
yeah,
Academy Award winners in this cast.
Sony needs to be murdered. Like this is horrible.
Yeah, Max, when you said
Um,
that this is kind of a mercy killing, that's probably the best way to describe how this
but
universe is
the
going
problem
out.
is that they're still going to be doing the Spider-Man films, so I know they're going to ruin that. Like they haven't
No,
done a good
they're
one
I read the other day that Sony is considering, after all of their movies have just been
selling.
utter disasters, they're
Selling.
considering selling the rights to just
Get rid of
all the
it.
way to
I don't
Marvel.
care how bad Marvel has been. Sony is like, this is dreadful. This is un. If it was food, it would be unedible. Like it's so bad. Um, and everyone has like a formula too, somehow. It's like you've got they're all anti-heroes. Well, I guess not Madam Web, but everyone's got like a shady contact that's like, oh yeah, can you help me out? Everything has like a familial issue. Especially like Morbius, I got Morbius vibes, like two brothers, like by the end they're fighting each other. I mean, in Morbius, they're actually fighting each other. In this one, it's like alluded to. It's so awful. It's truly the dregs. It's like a Hallmark movie, but in comic book form. Um, I don't know. AI could probably do better. I'm a big proponent against AI, but if you're making films this bad, maybe,
Give it a shot.
yeah, maybe
ChatGPT,
could
write a
it be
Kraven the
worse?
Hunter movie.
But I actually like Russell Crowe. He's pretty I love his corny accents and stuff. By the way, everyone's doing a Russian accent in this. I don't think any of them are Russian at all. Like even have ethnicity in Russian.
The actors,
Um, yeah.
Yeah,
none of
like
them.
that's
But yeah, Russell Crowe was doing his like Pope's exorcist accent with a little Russian twang. Um,
I honestly got sort of like a lower, like a deeper version of his Zeus accent from Thor: Love and Thunder.
okay, well, George, they're all the same. They're like generic foreign accent.
But Russell Crowe's a
Russell
better
Crowe is a
actor
great
than that.
actor, not known for his accents.
True.
Anytime you ask him to do an accent, it's probably gonna end up like this. Um, like, don't
oh,
ask Tom Cruise to do an accent.
I
If you
wouldn't
want
ask
to,
Tom Cruise to do an accent.
yeah, he notably did an American accent. He just spoke in his normal Tom Cruise voice in Valkyrie because he didn't want to do German.
yeah, people saw his I can't remember what movie it was. It was but he was doing an Irish accent, and he's like, "You don't like my hat? What do you mean you don't like my hat?" He sounded like the Lucky Charms guy.
Yeah,
Um,
I think my
yeah,
biggest my biggest objection to this movie is the same problem that I've had with all of the Sony Spider-Man adjacent movies, and that's just a lack of care. Like they don't care about these movies. They're just making them to make them. The scripts are terrible. The visuals are bad. The ADR work is garbage.
my question is
And,
why? Because they're losing money every time. So what's the end goal here?
well,
Didn't they just need to do it to keep the IP alive?
Yeah, but why are they've released one of these films like every year. They only need to do it every
Yeah,
like
this is their
4 or
third one
five
of this year
years.
alone.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what is that? That's ridiculous.
I don't know.
They're
And
just losing money.
like,
Whoever's in charge of this sphere of Sony,
thank
mm-mm.
thank God this movie did not have a credit scene.
I wasn't gonna stay for it anyways. What?
I
Like,
would
Yeah.
have because of how just atrocious the Morbius ones were.
It really seemed like the director was trying to do something. And, props to the people trying to do stuff. This is an unsalvageable
Some of
mission
the
here.
some of the performances, like you can tell they're given not a lot to work with, and they take it as far as they can.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that. I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit here. I did like the CGI blood sucked, but I liked the stylized nature of the action. I thought that there were some really creative, brutal kills, which
Yeah, but
is
everything is
something we love to
ruined by
talk about. But
by the
like,
fucking CGI. Like, if you're gonna do CGI, you gotta put all the budget in those moments because otherwise it ends up being shoddy CGI, which looks like the damn cheetah that we have to see. I mean, it's a disgrace. It looks like a video game graphic. That does not belong in a movie, okay? The movie costs like $120 million. We can't accept this if the budget is that large. Like, we cannot. I don't care anymore. If the budget is bigger than like, a millionaire's house, like the most expensive house in fucking America, the CGI should look good. And it looks terrible almost everywhere. Like that's inexcusable at a certain point. That's like lack of care, lack of QA. I don't know. This is bad. It's really bad. I mean,
well,
look at that
Sony's
cheetah.
been
Look at
consistent
it.
with that, you know.
Look, look at the fucking cheetah. It
not
looks like a
only not
Gladiator
only the
2
cheetah, how about the
animal.
bear at the end of the movie?
The bear looks terrible. Everything other than the lion looks okay in the beginning. I think they spent all their CGI budget there because it has to get shot and it's really
That's the
important.
most
Yeah,
important one,
speaking of the
obviously.
beginning, can we talk about how they spent like half an hour in the flashback?
I don't know what was happening.
Yeah,
Wow.
after starting us off in the prison where he's like already doing cool shit and killing people with fucking tiger fangs.
We're
Yeah,
gonna
I started
cut
seeing
to
that. I was like,
not
oh,
Aaron
okay.
Taylor Johnson for 28, 30 minutes and show him living all of this backstory life. And then, oh yeah, we'll eventually get to, well, here's more exposition with Calypso showing up. And I bet she's gonna come into play later. And then
The absolutely insane that she's just off on a safari trip and all of a sudden she's got a magical vial. Like this is
And
ridiculous.
every member of her family, like the kid actor who plays the young Calypso, she does a fine enough job. Not really memorable,
Everyone's
not
doing
really
their job.
forgettable. The the rest of her family, did they hold auditions? Like, did they want to pick the best choices for
I
those
think they
roles?
picked extras. Where's
Clearly looked
Calypso?
like it.
And
Because
Calypso
my
just
God,
run off on a onto the savannah where they have just seen a lion like eating its prey. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I think it's a good idea. I'm gonna get out of the truck,
Well,
out of the car."
she had a feel, you know. She's like, all
Yeah.
right, somebody's in trouble. I need to feed this vial and give them this card
Of
that my grandma just showed me in this flashback you also saw.
yeah,
This
magic
is all
juice.
very important. Also, none of this, well, Calypso's in the comics, but like I don't remember any of this as a background. Again, I only read Spider-Man comics, so I only know him as a villain, but
because
this
maybe
seems
that's the
pretty
only
out of
place
left
Kraven
field.
should be is a villain.
Well, his whole thing is Kraven the Hunter. He's hunting Spider-Man. His entire purpose was to hunt Spider-Man. What do you mean you're having a Kraven the Hunter movie without Spider-Man? This is so stupid.
I mean, what are you doing having a Venom movie without Spider-Man? What are you doing
It's the
having
same. It's the same
Spider-Man show
problem.
up in the trailer for Morbius and not have him? Why are you talking to Uncle fucking Ben in Madam Web and not referencing
But they
Spider-Man?
go the worst thing about this is they go through all the familial tropes. Craven did have his sibling, like Chameleon was his sibling. I don't know anyone else.
Yeah,
He's got like kids and
that moment
stuff.
at the end of the movie, and by the way, Fred Hetchinger is having a wonderful, wonderful moment in film. He's he's coming into his own, and I love it. He's great, fantastic job. Um, what the fuck was that last scene?
I don't know. The kid
Can we
just went
talk about the
psycho.
CGI on his fucking head?
Well, that's a comic book throwback. That's what he looks like in the
Yeah, but
comics.
it didn't have to look so shitty in the movie.
Everything, the animals look shitty. You want the fucking chameleon like humanoid
All
want
right,
to
Ben,
not look
Ben,
shitty?
this is the second time in a month you've complained about shitty CGI animals. Sometimes
Because
they just
why?
look bad.
All right, we had an entire movie called Nope. You were not on the podcast, George, so you wouldn't know this, but
Fair.
there
Go
was a
on.
giant plot point in there, which is like we stopped using animals because they're too hard, but they look better. They look so much better. Or if you're gonna do CGI animals for some stuff,
Make it look good.
make it look good. But you can't use CGI on all this stuff. Like you're using CGI on blood, that's probably costing millions of dollars that you could spend maybe thousands of dollars and it would look better with practical effects. It's harder, yeah. You have to do cleanup, you have to prep this stuff, but it's actually cheaper.
That's
I
what
mean,
was so
I
great
just
last
don't
week when we
get it.
were Ben, when we were talking about Y2K and how they used
Yeah.
practical effects because they were such a low budget operation. It
$15 million
looked
dollars for
so
that.
much better.
It looks better than 140, $20 million, whatever this budget was, somewhere between there. That's
Max, you need to see
embarrassing.
Y2K
Yeah, I will. I mean, we've said this about other movies in the past too, like The Creator. I mean, that was what, a $90 million film or something, 110.
with
Less
some
than
of the
that.
best visuals of any movie we've talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a movie that takes place in fucking space.
And that's actual CGI. Like you can
Yeah.
do CGI. You just need to, first of all, when you're big studios, you frequently are just rushing all the CGI, which means they don't spend a lot of time on it. They're shipped off to the next project. But you can't do that. Otherwise, you end up with this. Like we've seen movies from 2000, whatever, that have better visual effects than what we're seeing
Pirate.
today. That's ridiculous.
Oh my god, the
For movies
visuals in
that
Pirates are
cost
so
more
good.
too. That costs about the same, so I guess for inflation, I mean those movies were actually pretty expensive for the time.
Yeah.
But
But they were still
still,
also made in like 2006 and 7.
yeah, it was so long ago. The technology is so much better now. You can do amazing special effects. And even Christopher Nolan doesn't use CGI for tons of stuff because he understands that it cannot do some things very well. The explosions are always going to look a lot better when they're real versus I mean, anything's going to look better when it's real versus CGI. When you use a CGI, humanoid, when you use a CGI animal, it's going to look worse than the real thing. So you got to balance that with like, all right, can we? I mean, come on, you can use a fucking real bear for, that last moment. You can use a real animal for the some of the cheetah moments. The cheetah moments, I guess he's using it as a weapon, so a little tough, but I'm sure there's probably a way to do it. There's been really creative things done, so I don't know.
Honestly, the set design and the prop artists are smart enough to figure this stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, you can do stuff. You can also do like movie magic, right? Different scopes of things to make it look like something is happening. There are things that can be done that would probably look better than CGI. Because, yeah, sure, you can see it happening, but like you can also see that it's very obviously fake, which ruins the illusion. I mean, you can look at Wizard of Oz all the way back then. It's like, wow, all the stuff for the wizard. They did that in 19, what is it, 34?
39.
39.
39? So it's like, I mean, 39, 1939. Why do you guys both know that, like off the top of your head? That's crazy. I'm normally the movie
Because
guy.
it's one of the best known movies of all time. Also, the fact that Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind came out the same year is kind of stuck in my head. Two of the
Came
most
out
iconic
this,
movies of all time.
they really came, that's 39. Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's lots of things you can do. Even in 1939,
Visual
they figured
effects,
that
I,
out.
I think one of the big problems that has befallen major studio blockbusters like this and like some of the stuff we've seen from Marvel Studios the last few years. Deadpool and Wolverine notwithstanding, because they did do a lot of practical stuff in terms of locations anyway, not a lot of blue screens for that. Um, but just the lack of care, and Ben, you touched on this earlier, but it's overworked artists moving from project to project to project to project,
It's like a treadmill.
and there's no there's no like hyper focus that's a poor phrase to use, but like there's no real care and thought and attention to detail put into any one project because it's always on to the next thing.
I think the worst part is with a lot of these big studios. This is not the case with more independent films, but for the big ones, especially like Marvel, DC, probably, they essentially like they have time set out for a movie for these CGI artists to work, and they'll work them overtime, especially if they don't have like enough done, which I think they've cracked down on with the union stuff. But essentially, they move on to another project. After that, if you have like reshoots and stuff, it's a nightmare to cut, to do. And oftentimes you get a really bad job, like the Zack Snyder mustache. It's like they couldn't even remove a mustache. I mean, obviously it's a stupid thing to ask and a waste of money, but you're essentially asking like a few people to do the job that an entire team is supposed to do when you do reshoots and things that are not on that schedule. And a lot of times it looks terrible. I know that happened with Quantum Mania. I'm really worried that will happen with Captain America.
Brave New World, they've done a lot of
I mean,
reshoots for it.
they've been reshooting. This is like their third reshoot. Things are going to look probably pretty terrible because they're on a treadmill. I mean, they're on a schedule. Like they got to get
It
to the next
can't
thing.
look terrible when it's the debut of Red Hulk.
That's probably going to be the
All
thing that
right,
looks
no, I'm
the
sorry. I
worst.
said I said it can't. I meant it shouldn't. I want to be very clear. It shouldn't be a patch job when one of your most, I mean, I don't know, most iconic comic characters, but a very well-known comic character that is
He's been
entirely
one that's
CGI and
is
motion
extremely
capture is
iconic.
making its debut.
Thaddeus Ross. I mean, they've got the Thunderbolts coming out. Obviously, this
And
is
that looks better than anything that Marvel has coming out
To
next year.
be
So
fair,
yeah.
to be fair, we haven't seen any footage or set images from Fantastic Four, which I'm thrilled about. Do not leak anything from that. And
yeah.
two,
But
Thunderbolts does not look like a very CGI heavy movie.
No, and that's a good thing.
yeah, and I saw the trailer for Superman today. And I mean, James Gunn is a good example of somebody that, like, if you take care with your universe, they just gave him Guardians. He did three movies. Every one of them, even if I don't love Volume 2 as much as the others, they're
Agreed.
amazing. They have, the CGI looks great. But when he's in control, like, he understands the value of taking time. He took a lot of time to write the script, took a lot of time casting. He understands the artistic vision. And I feel like Kevin Feige does to an extent.
He certainly
Um,
did early on.
yeah. But Sony never did. Sony
Yeah.
absolutely like was just throwing shit out there. They never had a vision at all. They were just trying to hold on to IP. Ever since they screwed up the third Spider-Man and tried to get Sam Raimi to put in all these villains when all he wanted was, I think, Sandman.
Yeah.
I mean,
And Harry
perfect.
Osborn, I think, is New Goblin.
Yeah, but
Right,
those
because
were
you've been setting that
perfect.
up.
Yeah. But that makes
Yeah,
sense. I mean, th those obviously made sense.
but yeah, you just throw in like Eddie Brock and Venom, and the worst parts of Spider-Man 3 were the Venom parts. Like when he's doing stupid Peter Parker,
The
you
Jazz
know,
Club, dig on this.
yeah, doing his little dance.
Come on,
Um,
Max, join in.
and I'm
No.
pretty sure they kind of just went with that for the rest of the
But
time. They gave
that
Spider-Man over to Marvel. Those movies were pretty good. Everything else they did with this IP is terrible,
that's been
awful.
my objection to this whole Sony Spider-Man universe is taking the IP they do have and just not running with it. Like, yeah, you did three Venom movies and they sort of followed a through line and there were enjoyable parts to each of the three films, but you're making all of these, Madam Web notwithstanding, you're making all of these villain characters into anti-heroes, which is not really 100% faithful to the source material. And
Well, they are anti-heroes
I
to
mean,
an
they've
extent.
had anti-hero arcs, I'm sure, but like Kraven, for example, he hunts Spider-Man. He is a bad guy.
Kraven is not actually. He's kind of an anti-hero sometimes because he's got like this code of honor. He
And they
actually, I
touch
think
on
he.
that in the film, but like
But
then the
like
way
I
it
think people are
ends,
tired of that,
I
right?
mean,
We've
it's no
had that
different than Deadpool. I
so
would say like you can make him into an anti-hero. The main issue is that like Deadpool exists independently, but he's heavily tied to X-Men. And the Deadpool movies, even though they couldn't use all the X-Men, they touched on that. Like that was a big part of it, is that he is sort of an X-Men and he's trying to become an X-Men in some of the movies. Like in this stuff, it's like there's no mention of Spider-Man. All of them are supposed to be kind of foils to Spider-Man, and you just miss an entire point. These are comic book movies, not even literary books, but you take away something like that, and the characters are one-dimensional.
no, they
Spider-Man needs his
entirely missed
villains.
the mark of making a comic book movie, which is fun.
Well, it
Like
doesn't
none of
need to
these
be
movies is
fun
fun.
necessarily, but I mean, you can make a really good movie that's, I mean, yeah, fun is the ultimate thing, but like The Dark Knight, I mean, is that fun?
True.
Is that dramatic?
But
Matt
Whatever.
Reeves' new Penguin series, right? I think
Or
is
The
a good
Penguin, like you
example.
can do more.
Yeah.
It's just they
right.
chose to
And
do nothing.
okay, so fun was not
They
exactly the best
chose
word they could
not
have
to
used there.
commit to a vision. That's the main issue. They chose to commit to like almost a generic formula that sucks. Um,
And they had
and
some really, really talented actors just absolutely wasted in
yeah, and they
these
just,
films.
I mean, they ruined like acquisitions of actors. You could have done so much more with this. Even if you're removing Spider-Man, which is a mistake, you could have done much more.
Think about how good is a stretch given what we have with these movies. But in the six Sony Spider-Man universe movies, imagine how much better they would have been with Spider-Man. And Sony had the rights to Tom Holland's Spider-Man the entire time.
You know what I think they were worried about is ruining their one good franchise, which is a franchise essentially carried by Marvel because they made the movies. And that's embarrassing to me. Like, this is your character, and Like
and
sell
it's
it.
being done better than you
If
by
that's your
someone
opinion
else.
of yourself, yeah, like if that's your opinion, then you gotta sell it because I mean, you can't make a Spider-Verse without Spider-Man. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's like making the Fantastic Four universe without the Fantastic Four. You just put all their villains in there. Granted,
Can't
I
wait for
guess
the
a
Robert
Silver
Downey
Surfer
Jr.
ship.
solo movie as Doctor Doom.
It's just, um, yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff, like even their anti-hero comic book plot lines are about like they are bad people in certain comics. And, the universe needs them at that point. But they're balancing that with like Spider-Man, who, they've hunt a lot of them hunt Spider-Man for their entire lives. And then they have to, save somebody for a change. Like that's kind of the thing. Deadpool is a mercenary and then he has to save people. But you don't have Spider-Man. You just are making these anti-heroes somehow heroic through their story and it's inauthentic. I mean,
Yeah, I think the bottom line with these movies is that there was no plan. Like
no.
you can set up connections in credit scenes. I maintain that the Let There Be Carnage credit scene sending Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock and Venom to the MCU was the high point of this entire universe. But if you're gonna have like Morbius say I am Venom in the movie, and you're gonna hint at all these interconnected stories and not do anything with them, and have your solo stories be this bad, it's like, other than extending your rights to the IP, what's the damn point?
Yeah.
Also, you're losing, they probably lost like hundreds of millions of dollars at this point.
Well, you know what?
Why would you
They
continue?
should re-release Morbius because this time they'll make their money back.
Yep, this time.
We promise, Sony, we promise we'll go see it.
But if you actually looked at the amount of like Oscar winners throughout their films, there were at least like four or five, or at least Oscar nominees.
This
Like
film
Michael
feels
Keaton.
like
Well, I
Aaron
guess
Taylor
Michael
Johnson
Keaton's only
is
in the
a
after credit scene of the Sony movie, but
Aaron Taylor Johnson is a very, very good actor. Not an Academy Award nominee yet, but
yes.
he's very, very good. We've mentioned Ariana DeBose. We've mentioned Russell Crowe. Like, this
You
movie
don't need
is
to mention
so.
Jared Leto, even though he won one.
He's an Oscar winner.
He is, but he's also
This,
weird.
yeah, that's true. This movie and this franchise is so far beneath the sum of its parts. It's a disservice to filmmaking to have these names attached to these projects for them to be so bad.
To be fair, Russell Crowe he's been on a run recently, though they're typically pretty fun. Like The Pope's Exorcist, terrible movie, really fun. It's really bad, but really fun.
Yeah, is Ariana DeBose having any fun here?
I really don't understand how you go from Oscar winner or Oscar nominee. Wait, did she win?
One.
She
So
won.
she won. So Oscar winner to yeah.
She's
Why
now
would you sign?
like
She must
The
have
Ar
get.
the Argyle
she did.
and okay, and this, and
She's
then
doing
she's gonna be
Love
in Love
Hurts.
Hurts next year.
I
Which,
feel like
to
she's
be quite
trying to
honest,
be.
I love Ki Kwan. Doesn't look that great either, right? Like
Yeah,
Doesn't look great. I'm
you're an
still looking
Oscar.
forward to talking about it though.
yeah. I mean,
What are
I
you
don't mind
doing?
for him. It's like he got his big break again, after being like a child star. So get
Yeah,
that
yeah, no,
bag.
I'm happy for them, but it's like, okay, but at what point do you fire your agent and be like, all right, come on now.
I'm okay with Ki Hui Kwan because like
I meant for Ariana DeBose
yeah,
specific.
yeah. He could
Right?
get that
Ki
bag,
Kwan can do whatever
I
the hell he
forgot
wants.
that she was in
Yeah.
Argyle.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ariana DeBose, like you were an Oscar winner, you're young, you need to do things that are good. You have financial stability. You have nothing to worry about right now. And I guess that's I maybe it's like a sports thing, you want to get the money now because you don't know whether you'll fall off and all this stuff.
Hey, but your
But
start. where you won the big award was in a Spielberg movie. Come on. Like you should
You
be
can
booked and ready for the next 6 years.
you can get a better role too. Like
Yes.
you can get a
Like
successful like, who signs onto a Sony project and is like, okay, they're paying me $5-10 million, but I could get this from somebody else that might be successful. I mean,
like
I get
Adam
the appeal,
Driver.
but
Like look at his list of directors and then he'll throw in 75 million years ago, whatever, 75 or whatever the fuck that movie, the dinosaur one was called. He'll
oh
do,
yeah,
Oh, Adam Driver,
yeah. What was
65.
75? 65? Yeah.
65, yeah. I don't know what happened. I think he just really wanted to be in a movie where he fought like dinosaurs with
I
guns.
mean, sure, why not? Who cares?
He's like, I was in the, he's in the Marines. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty sick.
But he's worked with Academy
Michael
Award winning and Academy Award
Mann's
nominated
Coppola,
directors.
Yeah, the
Frank.
dinosaurs. He's shooting dinosaurs. I mean, maybe he gets like paid
As
five,
long as
ten
he
million
doesn't, as
dollars to shoot
you know, as long as he
dinosaurs.
doesn't make a habit of it. Friend of the pod, Adam Driver can do whatever he wants. Just don't make a habit out of doing
Isn't he?
65.
I mean, he's been in a lot of really good stuff though, so I feel like he's
Yeah.
allowed a break.
Oh, that's what I mean. Is like he's been on this amazing roster of directors like Michael Mann, Francis Ford Coppola, Spike Lee, all these greats. And then yeah, sure, you're allowed to do your fun little dinosaur action movie. And like, okay,
Yeah,
good.
Ferrari was great.
Yeah,
What?
Michael Mann.
That was
Yeah,
great.
Ferrari, yeah, Michael Mann.
Oh yeah, Michael Mann. Yeah, why? Um, yeah, I don't know.
He's
I'm
done
also
what, three
missing
Ridley
him.
Scott movies?
Is
He
it
is.
really three? Yeah, it is three.
Is it three?
House of Gucci, Last Duel.
There
What
another
was the
one?
third?
Maybe not.
I think it's
Maybe it's
just
only
two.
two.
He was in two at the same year though, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then those movies just didn't do well.
You know, if I could
Bless you.
just give a final word on, bless you,
Bless you. Bless
bless
you.
you.
Thank you.
That's it. You get three.
Appreciate it.
If I could just give a final word on the Sony Spider-Man universe as we wrap up here.
Couldn't
Um,
die soon enough.
the, at least we'll always have how obsessed Chip was with Morbius that one summer.
Everyone was. It was Morbin time for a few months.
Like, if you were gonna kill the universe with Kraven, why not have him say it's Kraven time or I'm Kraven a little Spider-Man at the end of this movie?
I think the director really wanted to make a good film. He just was not given the tools to.
He was given the tools. He was given over $100 million in a budget and these actors in his cast.
Yeah, but I don't know how much. Like, all these movies end up being essentially the same that I don't really think the writers or directors have any say. Like, that doesn't happen unless the studio is coming in and being like, all right, this is how it's supposed to happen. I mean, that just doesn't happen.
And we've never seen that from Sony in the past.
Yeah, it's like they're definitely just intruding and saying, all right, this is how the movie's going to go. And the directors have got to be like, all right, I really love my film. Unless you're Dakota Johnson and you're like, yeah, I don't know what was happening. This seemed really weird. They paid me like $10 million, but I think this is the worst thing I've ever been in.
So, after six movies, five of which we've done on the pod, good riddance.
Which one did we not do?
The first Venom movie because we weren't doing the pod
Oh,
then.
that's true.
But
Okay.
Let There Be Carnage, Morbius, Madam Web, The Last Dance, and Kraven.
I like some people like Venom. I can't get behind it.
I liked the
Even
first
the
Venom
first
movie.
one. The first
It's
one
still
with the
it's still
lobsters.
they're still the best three things to come out of.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I have to like them.
No,
Again, they
And
have
this
Oscar
movie
winners in those. Like Michelle Williams,
can't
Tom
act.
Hardy is an Oscar nominee. I don't think he's a winner.
Mhm.
Um, I liked this more than Morbius and Madam Web. They at least looked like they were trying a little bit with the stylized action and a couple of the performances.
Yeah, I mean, Madam Web, like I think that was the low point in terms of Sony's effort level. Like that, I don't
Just
know
the
what it
ADR work
was.
on the villain.
Like, I still to this day have no idea what happens in Madam Web, and I've seen it twice.
I'm
Um,
ready to see it a third time.
no,
I'm kidding.
don't do
It's
that.
like the villain is just that's the worst one. The villain is unbelievably bad.
Ezekiel
Ridiculous.
Sims.
It's
Um,
like he's
so
half
I'm
Spider-Man.
I am very much looking forward to when Madam Web, Venom: The Last Dance, and Kraven the Hunter all end up on Ben's top five next week.
Yep.
Um, a really week and a half, considering that episode drops on the 31st. We will not be releasing a new episode next Friday. This is our final review of the year. We will see you on the 31st for our top fives, our countdown, looking back at some of the movies of the year. I'll explain all of the setup for that episode at the start of the next one. So thank you for watching this year. We will see you for our year ender next week. In the meantime, if you want to spend 2.5 hours of your time doing Kraven the Hunter, I'm not going to stop
Two
you.
and a half. It's only two, but
Two, but trailers.
sure.
Go see Wicked
Yeah,
instead. I
I
don't
saw
Yeah,
care.
go
trailers.
see any of the other movies in theaters right
Go
now
see
instead
any
of
other
this.
movie.
I saw trailers. Definitely. I saw us in theater.
All right, we will see you for our top fives on the 31st. Happy holidays, everyone.
Good
Good night.
night.